Well, it's that time of year again, viewers. It's the Movie Mates Christmas special. This is a kind of tradition for us at this point, Callum. I think, last year we did it at your place, but this year, Northern Ireland's been hit quite bad with the new COVID variant, so we thought just in case, we'll do it online. We've got a bit of a similar episode to last year, where we break down movies, open presents, all that stuff in the spirit of Christmas. So yeah, mate, I always love doing these. They're always a blast, especially this time of year. A lot of good films come out too. Of course, we reviewed Spider-Man recently, and that was a blast. So yeah, I don't know about you, but these are my favorite videos to make, really.
Yeah, I really love anything. Well, any episode is an excuse to talk to you. So anytime,
How about
I
you?
can do that
No
is
rush.
time well spent.
Yeah.
So last year it was our favorite Christmas films, at least what I thought were some of my favorite Christmas films, because one that we're going to talk about today really I think usurps the number two position from Home Alone 2, which we talked about last year. Last year we talked about Gremlins, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, Voyage of the Damned, and Elf, right?
Yeah.
Those were the four that we discussed. So those were our four favorite traditional Christmas films. I mean, Gremlins, I suppose, is Gremlins and the Doctor Who episode are a bit in question there.
Yeah.
They're our favorite Christmas films. This year, I would say these are our favorite not quite Christmas films. Your one especially, I would say, isn't essentially it isn't central to the theme of the film. And I would say with the film that I brought to discuss today, I would say the grimness of it probably overpowers the festive cheer. So I think the natural progression of this series next year I reckon must be our least favorite Christmas films.
Yeah, it might be going that way. I feel I think especially with my film I've chosen today, I've never seen Die Hard, but there's a lot of contention over whether that film's a Christmas film or not. And I suppose it all boils down to whether it's set at Christmas, all those kind of things. I feel like mine, while the plot line doesn't have as much Christmas, the spirit of Christmas is there. Whereas with your
For the
film,
first 10 minutes.
yeah, the first 10 minutes, and then with yours, it's a blast. It's a really fun, just film that harkens back to our childhoods. I feel, especially with the character involved there. So I'm really looking forward to breaking down them. Another thing I'm really looking forward to is presents. Now it's moving its tradition to give each other Christmas presents and open them on camera, and this year's no different. I've got two presents here wrapped by Callum, and he's got mine over there. So I don't know what way you want to work it, mate. Do you want to open yours first? Do you want me to open mine first? How do you want to do it?
I mean, we should talk about the present that you've already given me. Not only did Matthew gift a couple of lovely presents to my parents, he had also sent me the Joe Phaser workout program, which I'm really excited to get on. Me and Matthew have sort of been both. We've both had difficulty in the past, keeping weight on, getting in shape. Matthew has taken the leap. He's doing frequent training now, getting into his boxing. So Matthew's, ripped. So I've got to get on his level. So I'm going to get on the Joe Phaser workout plan. Get on the lowest level, the beginner, and try and put on some muscle over the next year, and then we
Yeah,
can feed back on the
definitely.
next Christmas special.
I know we've always talked about doing like exercise gym videos and things like that, and I think we're both fans of Joe Fraser's channel, as naturally skinny kids trying to bulk up, I suppose, and that's kind of his forte, especially back in the day. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it, mate, and yeah. So I suppose because you've got one there, I've got two. I'll open mine first. You can do yours in the middle, and then
Yeah.
I'll finish off. So I've got this package here. I'm intrigued. I'm excited. Like it makes
May
me.
I say,
Yeah.
would you mind opening the other one first, because
Okay.
I have feelings on these ones. So I'd started
Okay.
working recently, so I finally had the amount of money to get something nice for Matthew, but the idea well was completely dry. So I've got you some dog shit, not literal, but definitely figurative. So the first one is something that I think you will like, but you may have, and it's something that I have provided you the receipt for,
Oh,
just in case you do have it. But
nice.
I would say that would be the one that I'd want you to open first.
I do not have this. This is fantastic. If you've been, thank you so much, mate. If you've been following our channel recently, we've been doing reviews of Hawkeye on Disney Plus, and this is the I think it's Matt Fraction is his name. This is his Hawkeye series. Oh, that's fantastic, bro. Thank you so much. That's awesome. I'm
So
definitely going to give that a read.
I know it's the omnibus, but I don't know how many actual issues of My Life as a Weapon there are in it. But I just thought because we were really enjoying the TV series, that you might want to follow along with how accurate it has been.
That's so cool. Thank you so much, man. That's an awesome gift. I'm definitely going to give that a read after this call. Because I think we were both saying, like, we haven't really that Hawkeye series, it's very similar to that comic run. Like, there's a lot of scenes and episodes just taken directly from that. So it is very true to form. That's awesome. Thank you very much, Callum. The second one here, we've got, well, actually, I'll let you open yours. First, actually.
I will say I am slightly dazzled at the minute, just because I'm using a ring light at the minute, to provide a bit of extra light, because it is normally a bit dark and dingy whenever we're on this call. I know normally I'm sort of have like a little bit of light from above and then nothing else, and I'm sort of just like like a little face in the window. So I'm trying to use a ring light, but it is on full blast, and my eyes haven't quite adjusted. But I will open this present here from Matthew. I could suspect what it is. Well, from its softness, I suspect something, but I have no idea what would be adorned on the front of it. It is indeed a T-shirt, and let's see. Oh, lovely. Yes, it took me a few moments to realize who that was, because once again,
dazzled.
I'm seeing stars, just as Matthew did when he had a boxing match with his uncle. And it is Korg from Thor Ragnarok, and I absolutely love that. That is fantastic. Awesome, I really like that. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
I will wear that on the next episode of the Movie Mates podcast.
Awesome, mate. Awesome. Shout out Sharon, by the way, my mum, for we've both talked about, we've got new lighting setups. I've got this behind me, you might have seen. This is a Christmas gift by my mother. So shout out you. That was very kind of you.
And I also got some podcasting merch from my brother, who made a considerable effort in the personalization of this mug.
Now, final gift we're going to be opening on today's show is Callum's for me again. So
Matthew, before you open this,
okay,
this is one to be enjoyed in the privacy of one's own home. That's all I'll say.
Okay,
that's all I'll say.
So there's
no expectation for you to use this outside the home.
Okay, but I can still open it on the podcast. It's not like some kind of private reference or something. Okay. Oh my god. Oh my. Oh.
You're finally a bulldog, Matthew.
I'm a bulldog. It's a Riverdale shirt. Yes. That is class. I've become Archie Andrews. That is just phenomenal. Where did you get that idea from? That is fantastic. Oh my goodness.
I don't know. I'd seen it once, maybe 2 years ago, and took a screenshot for future gift ideas, but then it sort of slipped out of my mind. The less and less we enjoy Riverdale, which I don't even think you haven't really made a push on season 6, have you?
I haven't, mate. I haven't. This might be my encouragement to do so. I mean, it looks like it's going to be a really good fit as well. That's fantastic. I love it. I actually really like it. I'll definitely have to wear that on the next time we're on the channel together. That's class. Oh, mate, I'm officially a bulldog. I'm part of the exclusive crew. Thank you very, very much, man. That's very kind of you. Oh, I love that. That's hilarious.
The presents I bought this year went down a lot better than I expected, I'll be honest, because I thought I bought my siblings and my dad some absolute shit, but I mean, unless they were just being overly generous in the reactions, they seem to all like them.
Yeah, they're sweet. Thank you so much. Awesome. I think this has been. I think overall we've had good success with our present giving on the channel. As it goes, I think we're doing well. Thank you very much, mate. That's brilliant. So we've wrapped up the present section of our podcast today, and tradition obviously states that we go into whole movie reviews. You've heard us mention a couple there. I'll pass over to you, mate, to explain what 2 movies we're going to be talking about today.
So to make it a bit more manageable, we didn't know whether this was going to be in person or not, but we thought 4 movies was a bit of a was a bit daunting, especially with our schedules. So we decided to whittle it down to two. We each chose one that we were really excited and passionate about. Matthew has chosen Serendipity, the film starring John Cusack and Kate Beckinsale. I'm not sure whether it was critically well received. I feel like it's probably considered one of those cheesy rom-coms of that era, because it came out in, I believe, 2001. It has sort of a Harry Met Sally kind of vibe, and we will go on to talk about that. I really did enjoy it. I'm sure Matthew will be happy to hear that. But for mine, I chose Batman Returns, which came out in 1992. So as the law of the movie mates dictates, we go by year order. So I think Batman Returns will be what we start with. I have, as I said to Matthew before we started this, 3 times the number of notes for Batman Returns than I do for Serendipity.
Yeah, I have a similar ratio there. God, this film's so good, isn't it? You had said to me before, I was curious before as to whether I had to watch the previous Michael Keaton film. You said no, and you don't really have to at all. It feels like a totally standalone thing, really. And I'm sure there's loads of interesting trivias about that Batman universe at the time that I'm not aware of that you can sort of explain about later on. But straight off the bat, like, this is a fantastic film, and it is a Christmas film, like, without doubt. Like, it is completely set at Christmas. It's made reference to Christmas all the time. So yeah, I had a blast with this one.
Yeah, I personally think that this is the best Batman movie ever made, despite it not really being a Batman movie. In reality, it's a Penguin movie, and Penguin is very much a Tim Burton main character. He's a character with some level of deformity that became a societal reject, and you can tell that that's the character that Tim Burton cares more about by how little screen time Batman has. But I think like with Spider-Man, that the villain makes the hero, especially Batman. Who is Batman with, like, the Joker, for example. So I honestly think I didn't really have an issue with that. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's strange because Bruce Wayne or Batman aren't really in the film that often. I mean, they are in it, but not. I would say Cobblepot gets the majority of the screen time here, and rightly so. I'd heard a lot about Danny DeVito's performance here and, like, how iconic it was, and I wasn't sure whether that was going to underwhelm me with all the hype behind it, but it actually it overreached my expectations. It was incredible. And the film can come across as quite cheesy and quite silly, but in a good way, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, whenever he's got, like, penguin like hands, and he's got, like, he's associating with all these, like, birds and attaching explosives to them. Like, that can sound so stupid and silly on paper, but somehow with the tone of the film and everything, and the Christmas spirit that is there, it works tremendously. Like, it's a blast. It really is.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that this film is too dark for its own good, but it's Batman. Like, how else do you play this? Whenever they went silly but with an overt turn to comedy, it turned into Batman and Robin and Batman Forever. So whenever they do silliness tinged with this level of grimness, like, that's where I think you find the perfect balance.
Yeah, if I could describe this film in one word, it would be wacky. It is so zany, it's so, like, vibrant, and it's got some really weird moments in there, but I think that works really well with the film. Like, Tim Burton, I guess, is kind of known for that kind of unusual style. And of course, this film introduces a lot of iconic moments too. Probably the most at the minute is Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. I think this is her first appearance, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what an amazing idea that was, to be fair.
And with this, we will talk about some carryovers from the first film. There's the mentions of Vicky Vale, but she's very, very unimportant. She's only referenced twice within this film, and everything else, Joker isn't even mentioned. The death of Bruce's parents doesn't come into it. But one thing that is in full force is the visual style and the music. And I think we can probably say that Danny Elfman is probably one of the most talented composers of all time. And I think that this may be my favorite character theme in all of cinema.
Oh, it's so good, isn't it? It is absolutely phenomenal. I think he worked in Spider-Man as well, didn't he? And the Raimi ones. Yeah, he's fantastic. And one thing I love about this film is the look of Gotham City. A lot of films have kind of shied away from that. I feel particularly the Nolan films, you didn't really get a good grasp of Gotham. It just looked like this metropolis that just looked like any other city really. But this one here, it's got a unique vibe to it. It's very much a street level film, and I loved it, man. Honestly.
And the film opens with Penguin's origin story, which
Mhm.
even further points to just being his film. We see that he was rejected by his parents, and then we flash forward to the present, 33 years. I find it quite hilarious that the Penguin is meant to be 33 when he's pushing 50.
Pushing
Uh,
50.
you know,
Yeah.
which is weird because the film takes place in this very anachronistic universe. It's the 90s because they're playing like Super Freak at the Masquerade Party, but it looks like the 40s. So when you flash back to Penguin's parents, that could be any period of history. So you could have said 48 years later, and it would have made it as much sense. Well, more sense at least, from how devastatingly old Danny DeVito looked in 1992.
I love how Cobblepot just ends up with a bunch of penguins for his origin like that. It's just so on the nose cheesiness, but I loved it nonetheless. It was just bizarre.
Yeah, Tim Burton, I think, doesn't understand comic books. Like, he says that he loves Batman the Killing Joke, but he does very much read as the type of person who heard Batman and he's like, oh, he's a man and he's like a bat. So in the first film, he's like hanging upside down, sleeping, like a bat. And then in this film, he heard penguin, didn't do any further research and said, must live with a bunch of penguins. It's fascinating where his brain goes to. And I mean, it leads to my favorite Batman films ever made. So it's clearly what I like and what I enjoy about Batman. But I think you wouldn't get away with that kind of weird reinvention of a character these days. The MCU in its early days, because they were dealing with these unpopular characters, they did get away with a lot. Jarvis was a physical butler in the comics, but then they made him this AI. And I think if they did that kind of transition for a major character these days in the MCU, they'd get absolutely slated. And I think making the Penguin this mutant probably wouldn't go down as well.
Yeah, I feel like they had more creative freedom back in the 90s with like there was no strict adherence to comic book lore at the time, I suppose. That really only started with probably like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. Maybe, I can't really say the X-Men films are particularly true to the comic book form with the colorful costumes and whatever, but probably the Raimi Spider-Man films, and probably moving into that, yeah, some of the more MCU films. But I feel like this one here, the Penguin's never really been a character I particularly enjoyed as a Batman fan, but I'm intrigued to see his role in the Batman, the Matt Reeves one. I think he's being played by what's his name? He was
Colin Farrell.
yeah, yeah, him. And I feel like Danny DeVito is just he is just like he looks exactly like how my childhood remembered the Penguin, if that makes sense. And maybe that's because of this film. It was, I used to play the Lego Batman films all the time as a kid, and of course they have references to these films. So yeah, I mean, it's not a character I particularly loved, but I can really love Danny DeVito's performance and how they took the character. Even small things like the penguin living under a zoo with a bunch of penguins. Like I like that whole dynamic. Like it seems like it would make sense for the penguin in this film because he is just crazy.
Yeah, I do think this take on it is a lot more interesting than just having him be a mob boss, which is, how he's presented in the comics, how he was at the time, and how he will be, it seems, in Matt Reeves' The Batman.
Mhm.
But yeah, it is also my, childhood image of the Penguin because obviously Batman the Animated Series was made off the back of this franchise, with
Yeah.
the main theme and a lot of the character design. So the Penguin in that show has the top hat and the flippers. So that is very much my childhood image of it as well. So I think even though I saw this 6-7 years ago, not too long ago, far after I saw the Batman cartoon series, I think I felt a weird nostalgia for something that came out in 1992.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. Like at the same time, 1992 seems like so long ago, but at the same time, like I feel like the film has an energy of like a late 90s film as well. Like it's not totally dark where like there's no jokes. Like it has humor in there too. And even like character designs, they're so crazy and colorful. Like Christopher Walken has this insane hairdo, like slicked back gray hair. It's fantastic. And Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, she has like the craziest superhero or well supervillain origin story I've ever seen in my life, but it somehow works in this film. Like it's not like comic book Catwoman as far as I'm aware, but it's fantastic.
Yeah, I think a lot of people won't let this film away with a few things. A lot of people who do, like the adherence to comic accuracy, which are most of the people that are interested in seeing this kind of film, they'll say her origin's stupid and so is the Penguins. But I think people who just enjoy Tim Burton's films would absolutely love this film because it is
Yeah,
quintessential Tim Burton. Uh, you
without
know,
doubt.
many of the characters could be, likened to, the likes of Edward Scissorhands, for example. But this film, as you said, introduces Catwoman. You have this silly origin, but for the sake of the film, I would say, maybe she has literal, superhuman abilities. It's not just she keeps cheating death. It is that she does literally, without knowing, have these 9 lives, and it would make sense that she had those from birth, and then it was just her first death that unlocked them. So I choose to believe that
Yeah, I like
over,
that. I like that
a
too.
cat sucked her finger and she was all good.
I like that too. I mean, I think with her character as well, they balance that Bruce Wayne Selena Kyle dynamic so well with the secret identity stuff. And the secret identity stuff, man, I really miss that in comic book films these days. Like when we were growing up with like superhero TV shows and movies, like secret identities were really important. And now, with the MCU, everyone loves the hero. In those films, everyone knows who they are. Um, and I just miss that trope. Like spoiler alert for Spider-Man No Way Home here, but in that film, the way they retcon that secret identity stuff for Peter Parker, I really enjoy. I mean, they really retcon it by just making everyone forget him, don't they? But I mean, I like that because it's true to form, it's true to character. And I just like that dynamic where the two antagonists don't know each other, and then there is a reveal where they do. Like it's classic superhero film stuff, and I really appreciated that here.
Yeah, I really do like that as well. Are you convinced by the romance?
I
Because I
do.
was watching this
Yeah.
thinking she's behaving like an absolute lunatic in front of him, and he's like charmed by her. And then you don't really realize why that is until they have their first date at the house, and you realize, oh, it's because he's like that. Because I think he does put on, a more, slicked back kind of normal person persona whenever he's in public. I mean, to be fair, he just seems like a regular guy even in the Batcave. He's not like, hell bent on vengeance in the way that Batman is normally depicted. He's kind of just like a normal kind of chill guy who just puts on a bat suit and murders people. Like he's not, he doesn't seem, to be insane in the way that Robert Pattinson's version seems to be. You know, or I mean, remains to be seen. Or this kind of just dickhead like Christian Bale's Batman. Uh, he just seems like a normal guy in and out of the bat suit. So I think I don't know if I was completely sold on the idea that they were the same because she did kind of have this warring duality to her, whereas I think he didn't. I mean, he definitely gets the distinctness between Bruce Wayne and Batman visually and definitely with his voice. But I think he just kind of seems like a nice normal man in and out.
I think now is a good time to get into Michael Keaton as Batman because I think personally, I've only seen this film, of course, with him in it. I think he's really, really good. You mentioned now the voice. I think this is probably the best Batman voice I've ever seen in terms of it's subtle. It's not like the Christian Bale Batman where it's like like it's not like really over the top, silliness. This film it works. Don't get me wrong. There's things about this Batman I don't particularly enjoy. Namely probably the costume and like the the fabric of the coil where he can like just tear it off, and he has to wear eyeliner, and there's a hilarious moment where like he goes to take off his mask to when he's with Catwoman, and like the eyeshadow noticeably disappears because if they would have taken it off it would have just been eyeshadow. So I do particularly like that. I do like the Batmobile. I do like Alfred. So I would say overall this is like an 8 out of 10 Batman. Like I think Michael Keaton is a really good Bruce Wayne, to be fair as well. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, obviously Batman isn't always meant to be a likable character. He's meant to be a dickhead. Well, he's uh, a warrior for justice at the expense of his personal life. So often, he comes across as an unlikable character. And I think
Hmm.
they've really leaned into that in Christian Bale's movies. And here he doesn't really have that because he's kind of, in the first film, I know you haven't seen it. He avenges the death of his parents by murdering the Joker. Because not to spoil it for you, I mean, you may know this already, but in that universe, it was Joker that was responsible for his parents' deaths. Like he took on the
Okay.
role of Joe Chill. So he's sort of already he's put that to bed by successfully murdering the Joker. So he no longer has like the thirst for vengeance, at least for avenging his parents' deaths. So he's a very different character to what we're normally used to. So I don't think it is Batman that we're watching. We're watching like Michael Keaton, murder some people. But it's not really Batman.
I'm
But
really surprised to hear that because in
I
this
I
film he
I,
seems like
I
quite a
do I do
softie.
still love it.
Yeah, like in this
Yeah,
film
he
he
is he
seems
is
like
he
quite a
is a
softie.
softie.
Yeah, I'm surprised at that. I mean, there's moments where he definitely kills a few goons in this film, like by strapping bombs to them and stuff. Like he definitely kills a lot of people. But overall, I quite like him. I mean, I think once we do all the Batman films in the channel, we'll have to rank. Probably whenever the Batman comes out, we could probably rank all the Batman because I know you're probably a bigger Batman fan than I am. I haven't seen all the films or anything, but I think Michael Keaton did a pretty decent job. Like
I do think it is, in my opinion, the best Batsuit though. Like the first one, not so much.
I just
From
didn't
the
like the
first film because
coil.
it's like it's a weirder material in the first one, and he has like the solid like orange sized abs. And he has like a strangely shaped bat, and like yeah, I understand. The coil is it's a bit too big, and it's sort of like spindles off almost across
You
his
got like turn
chest,
his neck.
and yeah, it is too solid for him to turn his neck. But I mean, what are the alternatives?
I know.
I mean,
I
I
know.
suppose I suppose Ben Affleck's Batman suit I think is maybe one of the best.
I don't really
But
like it that
honestly,
much. It's
Christian
too
Bale's
bulky.
I don't like them.
I think if I were going to go for a favorite, I think the Robert Pattinson one's pretty good actually. It's
Oh
very
yeah,
like
I'm a big
Arkham.
fan.
It's very Arkham video game, but the Ben Affleck one, the ears are a bit too short for me. I like a pointy eared Batman. This is a weird
Okay.
conversation, but I like a pointy eared Batman. And I just he's just a bit too like bodybuilder Batman, whereas like Christian Bale's Batman looked really skinny for me in that costume. I don't know. Well, that just me. Like, it looks like if you like pushed him over, you could just die. Like, it didn't look well enforced at all. But I think probably I could probably push this one to second, to be honest, because I have a limited experience with the other ones. I mean, from what I've seen of the George Clooney one, it's not that good. With like the Batman nipples and stuff, it's maybe not the best.
No, I mean I sort of like the idea. I mean, obviously there's like where do you draw the line? If we have sculpted pecs and abs, like why wouldn't they have nipples? The idea was that they were sort of sculpted after like the Greek statues. So
Mhm.
you have this entirely sculpted torso. I mean, that doesn't make any less sense than the pecs and the abs, I think, but it does look more stupid. But I do think you can defend it.
I'm looking through them all here. I think I do like the Val Kilmer one looks pretty good, okay to me here.
Hmm.
Is it like it's like a more of a solid one compared to this one? Like it looks a bit more metallic and stuff. Then we get into like the Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, where it's like very sort of grayish and silver and all that stuff. And
Hmm.
then by the time you
I
get to the
I do
Nolan
think
ones,
the Batman Begins suit is just a worse version of the suit from Batman Returns. Like it's essentially just that suit, uh,
hmm.
but with like a darker cape and like the color ratios are off. Like I just think it's a worse version of this one.
My favorite Ben Affleck one is probably what's the one where like he fights the Superman in like the big mech suit or
Oh
something.
yeah.
I think it's really good because I do like the white eyes in the suits for some reason. But yeah, I'd say that one's probably my favorite. Um, Well, what do you think about the Catwoman suit here? By the way, it's a quite unusual origin
I'm
for
a
it.
big fan of it.
Yeah, I like it
You know,
too.
I think a lot of people aren't so fond of it because it is just formed latex again. But I think the stitching is really purposeful. In adding texture and color to it, and then because she's sort of been resurrected from death. I didn't really notice this until this watch, but the sort of stitching on her chest sort of
Yeah,
resembles like the Y incision of an autopsy,
yeah,
and like
Frankenstein sort of style. Yeah,
yeah, and that's something that I was really impressed by on a visual standing.
yeah. No, I 100% agree, mate. I think it's very unusual, but it works incredibly well.
To get into like some weirder stuff, we've sort of talked about the characters, by and large. So if we get into the plot of the film a bit, at the start, Penguin sort of makes his announcement of himself to the city, and Batman comes, whenever the signal is lighted. And I just hope he never has guests whenever the bat signal comes up, because he has this whole rigged up system for the signals to like come into his living room, and it's gonna be difficult to explain that away, I reckon.
They try to do that for a really cool shot of Michael Keaton like gazing into the distance, but in reality, if he had a few guests over, his identity's fucked. Like he's not
To be
smart
fair,
at
like
all.
he doesn't seem that concerned about it, because he reveals
Yeah.
himself to Vicky Vale and to Selena Kyle and to Max Shrek, before he even knew that Max Shrek was going to die.
He is Max Shrek. Is Max Shrek a comic character? I've never heard of him in my life.
Oh no, not at all. I think he's the parallels between him and Lex Luthor are pretty obvious. But I imagine because of rights going between them, and I imagine they tried to use Lex Luthor but they couldn't.
Mhm.
Because at the time, I think all the Superman movies had come out at this point. Even up to Quest for Peace, unless I'm mistaken. So they probably would have had Gene Hackman back, if they had brought in Lex Luthor. And I think that would have been a real fun way to connect the universes, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, um, you've mentioned Penguin and stuff there. It gets to the stage in the film where he and Shrek kind of make this deal where he will kind of nominate him as the mayor, I guess, to sort of,
Hmm.
I don't know, authenticate him as a citizen of Gotham kind of thing. I was just baffled by the fact that anyone would support him, like at all in the city. Like everyone's cheering him, yeah, you're the best, Cobblepot, but like he's mad. Like he just bites some person's nose off. Like what's going on here? It's just even his demeanor. Like credit to Danny Vito. Like I'm sure this was I'm not sure whether this was his choice or director's choice, but like every little movement, like he makes a little grunt or something like that. Like it's remarkable, like how he can really come into character. And I don't know, I'm surprised everyone would just support him in this film, given that he's just clearly a
He
dodgy
saved the
dude.
mayor's baby.
I know I did, but like any like even a like randomer in the street could have thought that that was set up. Like surely it looked so sus in the film, but yeah, I mean, I get the reason why they want to do take this character like that way, but I don't know. I thought that was just ridiculous that people are loving this guy. What are you doing?
Yeah, whenever we sort of see that turn at the end, I mean, it is hilarious, and they make specific reference to it in the film. That they just had like tomatoes and eggs on hand to chuck at him during the
Yeah,
rally, and it
lettuces and
is.
stuff.
I don't know how you feel about it. Did you see that as sort of a funny or a tragic scene? Because it sort of parallels a similar scene in The Hunchback of Notre Dame, where he comes down, and then he's elected like essentially the fool of the fair, and then they chuck fruit and veg at him, and it's like it's a heartbreaking scene in The Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's one of the most heart wrenching like scenes of bullying in any film ever. So did you see Cobblepot in that moment as sort of a tragic character, or did you go, yeah, love those eggs at him?
You do feel sorry for him, don't you? Like he is just the parallels with him and Bruce Wayne are quite strong. Actually, the fact that they both grew up sort of like their parents in their lives, and yeah, this film is it does make you sympathize with him, but then I feel like they do really lean into the villain stuff. Of course, they do, but I think every villain has to be at least redeemable in a sense, or at least you can empathize with them and see where they're coming from. And I think this film does that really well. he is a sad character that you are supposed to feel sorry for, despite his crazy acts that he commits.
Yeah, I think if he hadn't murdered the Ice Princess, I think I would have felt a lot differently towards him by the end because,
Okay.
a lot of what he does, he just kind of sends his goons on like weird shenanigans, like they don't really do anything too violent or awful, but it's when he kills the Ice Princess that you sort of have the real turn, where you feel, I think, quite ill towards him.
Hmm.
So I think by the point that he's getting pelted with veg, you kind of like good.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that obviously when he kills Ice Princess, but I don't like him strapping bombs to penguins. Like, what if one of those things goes off and the penguin dies? Like, I don't like that. Like those penguins. I mean, how is I was just thinking logistically about him living under the zoo and like live. I mean, I guess he can observe society by in the sewers and stuff and like pick up and how to socialize with people and how to speak English and things like that. But like, how is he? Like I'm surprised he hasn't like grown a beard in this time, unless like he just can't grow one, or I'm surprised he you know is able to like clothe himself. Like, where's he getting all these umbrellas from? I'm not too
I mean,
sure. Like,
we do get a reveal when when Bruce Wayne becomes suspicious. He starts going through old files about the
I
circus,
suppose
and
with
he
the
finds out that
circus,
there
yeah,
was this
yeah. What was it called? Like the Red Triangle or
crying
something?
bird boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Red Triangle gang. Is the people from the circus, which I guess was sort of a resurrected concern of Bruce Wayne, having fought the Joker just a few years prior. But with Penguin, then clearly he is able to assimilate in society. I mean, he was sort of brought along as a member of the circus. So I mean, maybe he felt that he was worse treated in those conditions than when he was just living
Yeah,
amongst the penguins,
I suppose so.
underground. Uh, but yeah, it's an incredibly interesting character that I think I think this whole film is completely slept on, and I think that character of the Penguin is one of the most underrated villains of all time,
Yeah,
and I think
without
that
doubt,
Danny
mate.
DeVito's portrayal of the character is one of the most underrated villain performances of all time.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It is. It's fantastic. It's very like it is slept on. Like, you don't when people say about great villains, people jump to Heath Ledger and when you're Joaquin Phoenix specifically and all these kind of things. But I feel like Danny DeVito here, he's so underrated. Maybe it's because it's the era, the time it came out of, and that superhero films weren't as respected back then. I'm not sure, but I think this film, I'm surprised it doesn't have a huge following now. Maybe it does, I'm not sure, but I'm surprised there's not more people like us who really admired it.
Yeah, I think if that audience isn't there, then it will come. I think
Hmm.
this has all of the ingredients of a massive cult
Yeah,
film.
without
So
doubt,
I
mate.
I think I think people will come around to it if they haven't already. So we mentioned that Batman does knock off a few of Penguin's goons. How do you feel about Batman killing?
I don't really like it. It's like Spider-Man killing. I don't like Spider-Man killing people either, but it just depends what universe it's built in. Because when you told me about him killing Joker in the previous film, that really surprised me, given how like tender and soft Bruce can be in this film. Whereas with the Ben
Oh well, his
Affleck,
death's an accident. He just the
the old
The Joker tries to
chestnut.
escape in his helicopter, and then Batman grapples his foot to a gargoyle, and then he's sort of dragged along and then falls to his death. But it was
Yeah,
he meant
accident.
it.
Yeah. I think Ben Affleck Batman, it works quite well, but um, I feel like here, you know, it's subtle enough where like you can't overly condemn him for it because it's like, oh, it's played as a joke. But if I would have seen him like brutally murder, um, a goon, for example, I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much because I don't like Batman killing. I feel like it's really important to the ethos of the character that you don't have Batman kill. Um, but that's just me. I know a lot of people disagree with that one. What about you?
Yeah, I do think that the fact that he doesn't kill is what makes him different from a lot of superheroes who will kill under a certain context. Even Superman normally doesn't kill people, but he's willing to kill General Zod, which is why I'm like, I just don't like it. The under a certain context principle, because then like a murder's a murder. Like if you're gonna kill General Zod, why don't you kill Lex Luthor? which is why it's an issue with Batman in the Ben Affleck films, because Zack Snyder has famously said, if you think that Batman shouldn't kill, you're living in a fucking dream world. And I'm like, yeah, but then why is the Joker alive? This is very much this is a very common opinion on those kind of films. But if he's willing to kill nameless goons who have committed like minor crimes, why is he willing to murder the Joker? Why isn't he willing to murder the Joker who killed essentially his adopted son? Like, it makes no sense. But here, at least, he sort of equally applies the principle of I'll just kill anyone. If Catwoman didn't have her powers, she would have died. Penguin just happened to die not by his hand, but he would have murdered the Penguin anyway. And then he kills the Joker and goons. So like, at least I'm like, you remove what makes Batman special, but at least he's applying the rule appropriately.
Yeah, everyone basically. You just won't kill anyone.
Yeah. I mean, anyone, they've committed a small act of arson, let's murder them.
Absolutely. That's Batman's go-to, it appears. That being said, I don't have much more to say on this film. Plot-wise, like it's a hard film to comment on for me because it is so wacky and crazy that it's hard to tell whether that's intentional. I definitely think it is intentional because it's Tim Burton, but
yeah,
it's hard to comment on because like, what do you say? Like, that was funny. Like, you know what I mean? It's difficult to, but if I were to give it just a general thought on the final act, it would be pretty insane. Like, there's a lot of weirdness there. And I totally forgot about that part when like Selena Kyle and Batman are on that rooftop and Batman just like punches her off the roof, and she could have definitely died there for sure. Are these films connected?
Burns her with acid.
Yeah, I know. Are these films connected to the Val Kilmer and George Clooney ones?
Not in my heart, Matthew.
But they are in reality, are
they? They sort of make like loose reference to it. Like I think, well, like Batman Forever makes loose references to Batman Returns, and then Batman and Robin is just a sequel to Batman Forever.
Okay.
They continue with having Chris O'Donnell play Batman, even though it's now George Clooney, and then the Alfred is the same throughout them. But I think it's just, if we're talking about the Marvel version of the multiverse, with variants, I think it's just that it's three separate universes with Batman and Batman Returns, then Batman Forever, then Batman and Robin, but with some like loose Venn diagram stuff, like having the same Alfred or having the same Robin. That's how it is in my heart, Matthew.
I'd love to do a Batman podcast with you. Delving in, we could probably even go with Adam West one, start off with him or whatever, and then go through all the ones. And yeah, I mean,
was the Adam West series a part of your childhood at all?
Not really. I mean, I remember watching the they had done like an animated movie of it. I think in the last 7 years, and I think I watched that, but I never really watched the Adam West Batman. What about you?
Yeah, it was a big part of my childhood, especially the TV show, and I would watch the movie from time to time. But yeah, the TV series was a real big part of my life because anything superhero that I could get my hands on, especially like Spider-Man or Batman, it became a big part of my childhood. I mean, I would even watch like the 1970s Spider-Man series. So I mean, you could see I was desperate for content.
I mean, I'm so excited for the Matt Reeves Batman. I think it looks incredibly good. I just worry it's maybe too young a Batman for me. I'm not too sure. Like I think the age of Michael Keaton here is exactly my kind of Batman. That sort of mid-30s or whatever they're going for here. I don't know. I mean, I'm so excited for that. I think that could be film of the year for me next year for sure. It's pretty soon. I think March, isn't it? So yeah.
Is that another IMAX one?
I think it might have to be. I mean, the trailer that I've never seen like such a beautifully shot trailer in my life. I think it works exceptionally well. Especially in the IMAX screen when we went to see it last week. It looked remarkable.
So I do have a few further points just on the film, because I did take a crazy amount of notes, and I've already had to blow past a few because I was like, this doesn't need to be said. But it is just insane to me how people who are rich and people who are in power take such huge risks towards their like freedom and their lives by being criminals just in the pursuit of more power and wealth. Like, I understand that, Shrek seems to believe you can't have too much power, but surely you can have enough. It's like the people who are already millionaires then embezzle from their companies. And I'm like, right, I mean, you're still going to be like a millionaire, you're not suddenly going to become a billionaire. You'll probably just have twice as much money, but you already had more money than you're able to spend. So like, why would you then risk your freedom by being caught? And the reason they do those things is because they are caught. Like most financial crimes, I assume, are caught because any like tax audit is probably going to realize that your CEO is embezzling. So like, I just don't, I can't understand that. But maybe that's just a certain type of person.
Yeah, it is a very common trope for superhero films to have the villain be this rich conglomerate or rich,
Corrupt businessman.
oligarch. Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned Lex Luthor. I definitely feel like that character kind of started that trend, or at least was a result of it. Do you know what I mean? Like loads of films. I mean, even to a degree, like the Kingpin in Daredevil and the MCU is just a businessman. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, and I think that can work. It's just in this film, Max Shrek is just he's just a fucking idiot, isn't he? Like he's got a cool haircut, but apart from that, like he's just not a pleasant character at all. And murderer, really, technically. Because he murdered
Yeah.
Catwoman, didn't he? Well, tried to.
And
Anyway.
one that you're like, Batman, why are you not murdering him? Like he's like, you're going to jail. And I'm like,
What?
go to a grave. Like,
Yeah.
kill him, kill him.
Mhm.
I've never
Okay.
really like, said that to the screen. Because I mean, he is an idiot, but you also I think until he tries to murder Selena Kyle or does murder Selena Kyle, and how, depending on how you view it, uh, you know, you think he's like just a dickhead, but he, like a corrupt businessman, but he is also a murderer. So I think at that point you're like, yeah, kill him,
Kill him.
kill him.
Kill him,
Uh,
bats.
I would say one of the most interesting ideas in this film is actually the idea of framing Batman. I think it is an incredible idea that I'd
Yeah, it
like to see
is.
again, because I think if you were doing it in this, in a an even grimmer setting, where there's a level of realism and seriousness, which seems to be, in it, what the context of Matt Reeves's film is going to be. I think sometime in the future, if you tried to do that again, obviously in a lot of adaptations there already isn't, very positive public sentiment about Batman, but in this franchise there does seem to be, that he's ridding the city of crime, and people actually see and appreciate that. So there is weight to, the moment that he's framed. And I'm sure that if he just like publicly declared that he had been framed, people would believe him. Because if you just murdered someone so public, like if you wanted people to know that you kidnapped this woman, and then if you publicly murdered her, you're gonna want to take credit for that if you're the kind of person who chooses to do that. So if you just said, yeah, that wasn't me, people would probably believe him, because they'd be like, well, yeah, it'd be, it's easy for someone else to dress up as Batman, or easy for someone to just get Batman to be in the right place. So I think if he's saying, I know this looks bad, but obviously I wouldn't publicly commit a murder, then just go, wasn't me, unless he's just like a terrible gaslighter or something. I'm pretty sure people would back him up.
Yeah, one thing that certainly struck me about this film is the fact that the public, like Batman. You know what I mean? It's not something that they really do in the Nolan films at all. Actually, Batman's kind of this menace, I suppose. And it's quite refreshing to see Batman be, adored by the city, to a degree. And then I think that the route that they take it down framing him is something that, I think we might see in the Batman, with obviously the Riddler there. So I'm intrigued to see what they do with the character there. But in this film, I have to say, the avenue that they took it down is interesting. Like is this guy a good guy here? But of course it's Michael Keaton. Of course he is. And yeah, I mean the film does take for Tim Burton probably not be a huge fan of comic books. Like he does some interesting arcs that I think he takes the characters down in certain directions that I feel like are worthy of comic stories. You know what I mean? Like the Penguin origin is very interesting. The Batman framing is very interesting as well. And yeah, I mean, credit to him, because it's probably not his forte, but it's certainly struck me as an impressive feat to achieve.
Yeah, I really love his direction of it. And the way he chooses to portray violence is, for the most part, bloodless, which then sort of gives great effect to the moment that you then have Penguin bleeding from the mouth and Max's like charred skeleton. You know, those moments are
Hmm.
awesome because it's unlike anything that you've seen in the rest of the film.
Yeah, without doubt, mate. Without doubt, it's got a really unique visual style to it as well, which I haven't really pointed out, but it does. Yeah.
I honestly think that this is one of the best superhero films ever made, and I just think it is a real shame that it never got a legitimate follow up and that it never got the audience that I think it deserves. And really, I just can't wait to see Michael Keaton back in the Flash. I'm
Hmm.
sure after you've seen this film that you probably would go away and watch the first film, at least before the Flash, right?
Yeah, I think definitely, as I said, I hope we do a Batman filmography in the podcast. I think the Flash is coming out 2023 or 2022. I can't remember.
2022, I think November.
November. I mean, that's going to be exciting. Yeah, I'm really excited for that one because it seems like they're going to try and do, almost like a Spider-Man No Way Home scenario, like bringing back these old characters.
Once again, like this, it is another instance of I think Marvel taking DC's idea, because I think it was apparent that this was going to be DC's multiverse film quite a few years ago, and then it's quite obvious from the fact that Spider-Man No Way Home was meant to come out after Doctor Strange 2 that the story for Spider-Man 3 was entirely rewritten in order for Marvel to get out ahead of DC,
Hmm.
which is something they did with Captain America 3.
Hmm.
Became something and turned into Civil War because of the release of Batman v Superman. And despite me liking Civil War more than Batman v Superman, and almost definitely liking Spider-Man No Way Home more than The Flash, I can admit that it's definitely like dirty tactics from Marvel to try and be the first one to do this thing.
Marvel's the real ruthless businessman here, to be honest. I mean, I heard that Spider-Man already passed $1 billion, which seems incredibly quick to me. Like that's insane.
Hmm. Yeah,
I
I didn't even hear about that, but that is, I mean, it's not surprising, but that's pretty momentous.
Yeah. Oh, without doubt, mate. Without doubt. On that note, mate, do you have anything more to say about Batman Returns?
Nothing else for Batman Returns now.
I suppose if we're going to do a rating out of 10, what would you give it?
I mean, it's my second favorite Christmas film. I mean, it's got to be a 9.5 at least. I can't really point any fault to it. I can't really say this is what's wrong, this is what's right. I just love everything about it. And
Mhm.
I had the opportunity to see it at the cinema about a week ago, and unfortunately I was busy and I couldn't make it. And I think it's a real shame, because I think it would have been a real moment for me to see something from my childhood, revisited on the big screen. I've been lucky to see a lot of absolute classics like Jurassic Park in the cinema. So I think a cinema experience with this would have been really mind blowing.
Yeah, I'd have this. I'd give it a similar score, like a 9 or something. I think it's incredibly unique, and it has that spirit of the early superhero films that really recaptures my childhood and nostalgia, even though I've never seen it. But yeah, it's a 9 for me, mate. I really good shout for a Christmas movie as well. Now, as Cal mentioned, my shout for a Christmas movie is Serendipity, and I had to do a bit of research on whether this film was a Christmas film. I think the internet widely agrees that it is one, but it's probably a
Hmm.
very loose one in comparison to some of the classics we did last year. So so yeah, mate, what was your thoughts on Serendipity then in general?
So it was a film I really enjoyed. My notes are limited on it, and they
Me as well.
mostly boil down to Jonathan's a piece of shit. That's probably where my notes lie for the most part. Uh, I watched this film a few days ago. When did you last see it?
Probably the week leading up to Christmas, so pretty recently, yeah. Of
Yeah, so I can understand immediately why you like this film, because
course.
it's all about a meet cute and then fate and destiny telling them that they should be together, that they're soulmates, and that's obviously something that you put great value in. It's something that I think you hope for yourself in the future. I mean, of course, everyone hopes for yourself hopes that for themselves in the future, but whether you have the belief that it will to back it up, is sort of a different question. And having watched especially the opening of this film, uh, I imagine that you're going to be heading to a few stores around Christmas, when you
Has to be
when you
done,
don't
mate.
need stuff, just being like, just 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 wanting to buy this pair of gloves.
Have you got any gloves?
Anyone
Have you
else?
got any
And
gloves?
any other attractive single women my age want this pair of gloves? No.
Yeah, I mean,
On to the next store.
the opening 10 minutes it really sets the tone of the film, doesn't it?
Mhm. I have a feeling that, this is sort of like this film's a bit of a love scavenger hunt. I was
It's a good way of
surprised by
putting it.
how little the characters actually interact in person. You have the opening 10-15 minutes and then the closing 10 minutes or so.
Mhm.
But even in that, it's really just the last 2 minutes, because they're sort of reunited on the ice rink, and then they kiss and then the movie's over. So I mean, they probably spend a few minutes together, in the actual runtime of the film, which is very very interesting. And I feel like the sort of love scavenger hunt is something that you would love to do. You'd feel like this is my life's purpose, to
Yeah, I
find this
mean,
person.
it's quite similar to Sleeping in Seattle, I think, or sorry, Sleepless in Seattle, where like those Sleepless in Seattle, where Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks don't really meet until the final scene of the film, I think. And yeah, I was actually I was curious about one thing I'm very curious about is online dating and dating apps. So out of curiosity, yesterday I created a Facebook dating account. Now, have you heard about this? Facebook dating?
I've heard about it. I have not participated.
No, I didn't participate in this either. I just wanted to see like what the layout of this was. Like I didn't match with anyone or anything like that. But I went on it just to see what type of thing it would be like to fill it out. And it's a stressful procedure trying to come up with a bio, I feel. You know what I mean? Like so
Mm,
you come up with a bio and then photos, you have to put photos in of yourself. And then to be fair, it's pretty interesting. It you have to put your height in there for some reason, and then you have to, I suppose, in case I don't know someone like is dating someone like 6 feet taller than them or something, and then you can like put in prompts about yourself, so like my favorite movie is, or my favorite book is, or 3 words that describe me are, things like that. And it's interesting, like I've never tried Tinder or anything like that, but it just, I was out of curiosity, filled one out, and swiftly deleted it again. But
mm.
I don't know. It's just out of curiosity, I feel. Would you ever try it out?
Uh, I think I probably wouldn't do Facebook dating, because I imagine it's 60-year-old men, for the most part on it. I think anyone our age, if they're using dating apps, are using Tinder.
Hmm.
And it's sort of your opinion that kind of like sucks like the mystery and the romance out of it, right?
It does and it does. Like I think like a lot of people would meet their partner on online dating. Don't get me wrong, and I think it's a good way of meeting people and like networking and socializing in general. Um, I've definitely considered it before. I'm considering it at the minute because like what other ways and can you really meet people these days, especially with restrictions and things like that coming into place. So, I don't know. It's with this film in general, it makes you question those kind of things as well at the same time. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of just not built to like message people, or uh, be the first one to make that kind of move online, which I think is probably what you would have to do to actually get any form of success on those dating apps. People aren't just going to come to you. You're going to have to. Well, I would have to, put some serious effort in. So I think the right person for me would be someone who would share that opinion. And I think that's probably the distinction that I have
Mhm.
to make. That the kind of person that I would want to date would be the kind of person who would also not enjoy dating apps. So I think I'm just gonna have to pray that I find it in the wild.
Yeah, fingers crossed, mate. Fingers crossed. And this film, like we're saying, the first 10 minutes of it really do set the tone of it, and that the first 10 minutes definitely has the most Christmas spirit. That's kind of the Christmassy scene in here, and I love the methods of faith that they kind of use here. They have like the $5 note, and then the book as well, and the elevator scene. There's loads of really funny moments in there, and they kind of play it for humor as well throughout the film. And it's a pity the characters don't share as much screen time as they do, because they have great chemistry. I feel John Cusack and Kate Beckinsale.
Matthew, I had referred to the character of Jonathan, played by John Cusack, as a piece of shit, and you sort
Mhm.
of made uh, You made
crying.
quite a pained face whenever I said that, and I'm curious. Are you would you be a Jonathan defender?
I it's Kate Beckinsale. Like, it's just, I think it's Beyonce seems very understanding, probably a little bit too understanding of him in this film.
Well, I don't think she'd have been understanding if he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm
Just
breaking
told the
up with
truth.
you to try and get with Kate
Yeah,
Beckinsale." I think that probably would have been where she drew the line.
he's like, I think if you remove the context of Sarah in this film, then it's just he doesn't go about it well, does he, Cal?
Do you think there's defense in the fact that he's doing it for love? Is that what you're
Yeah,
angling at?
yeah, I think so. It's not. It's I don't feel proud saying that, but I think yeah, I can defend him for it. It's true love, isn't it? It's an exception.
Yeah, but it's like his happiness at the expense of keeping Hallie on his hook. You know, whenever they're at their engagement party, he just does not look happy to be there,
No,
and like
it's just give a fuck.
that is such poor form.
Hmm.
Uh, I think that the moment where she hands him the book at the end, as a wedding gift, she's made this really thoughtful gesture, and he looks at it and just thinks, I finally have my chance with Sarah. And I'm like, that's the moment where you're meant to look inside yourself and go, I'm a fucking piece of shit. You know, this whole time he's been, I honestly thought that might have been the moment where the film took a huge U-turn and went in a different direction. And he went, oh, I've been looking for this other woman the whole time when, the real catch has been here the whole time waiting for me. She's the one that I've actually spent years with. She's the one that has got me this really thoughtful gift. But then he goes, yeah, see you, Hallie, and then just and then just fucks off, and he's like, I've got Sarah's number now, so I'm gonna go get with her. And then, I mean, he doesn't say that to her because he wants to keep her on standby just in case things don't work out.
Yeah.
Uh, and then he goes and he mistakes Sarah's sister for her, and then he comes back, and I think I think you know I think he was probably quite close in his head to just marrying Hallie to have someone. I think that's just really really shit of him.
The
Bad
the
dude, in my
the
opinion.
film, I respect that. The film, the film plays it in a way as well where like there's a scene where he goes to, I think he goes to the cafe or something, or he either goes to um I think it's somewhere in New York anyway, and then there's the wedding dress and stuff, and he's like, oh fuck, that's it, I'm just supposed to be getting married, like I'm just, this is a pointless search. And the film does like it's not exactly like a feel good movie all the time, like it does like the character, like specifically um Jonathan, sorry, he is quite, like he doesn't, he's unsure throughout the film, like there's like a will they won't they kind of dynamic throughout, which keeps your attention really well, I find. And the film's really supported by Dean, who I think is a really fantastic side character. He's like Jonathan's best man. And it's quite, it got me a little bit when he said he's struggling with his relationship with his wife and things like that. And Jonathan's pursuit, I don't know why I keep calling him John, his fucking name's Jonathan in the film. His pursuit of true love has inspired him to kind of put more effort into his relationship. So I thought he was a fantastic side character. And I think that guy, he really reminded me. I think it's the same guy who was in Spy Kids 4, the villain who was like the time guy or something. Like, do you remember that film?
Really,
Yeah, it's the same
I
dude.
have seen the film.
Yeah, it's the same dude, I think.
Okay. And his whole character is kind of a cautionary tale about not judging situations by their appearance, because this whole time everybody thought that he had the perfect marriage, and it turns out that his marriage is the
Yeah.
one that's falling apart. And I think that was a really nice and subtle lesson in not judging things by how they look, on surface level. And
Without
you should
doubt.
really check in on friends, especially to make sure that they're doing all right. Uh, and like when it comes to how I feel about the whole situation with Jonathan essentially, trying to hunt down this perfect woman, I do hate him a lot more than I pretty much only have positive feelings towards Sarah, and I think that's because they do portray her fiance as a douchebag,
Yeah, he's a
but
dick. Yeah.
instead but instead, they reversed that for Jonathan's. Fuck you, you got me saying it now.
I got it.
For Jonathan's, and I think it's because they wanted to do something different with the two characters, but then they just made her a good person and him a bad person. Like, I think if he had found the book by some other means, and then that moment between him and Hallie that for him like ends the relationship in his head, I think if in that moment she had gone, yeah, I've been cheating on you. So I mean, yeah, you kind of you have this situation where now she's the bad person, but I mean, it is better than you walking away and hating the alleged protagonist of the film. So I mean, it is kind of, it's like a shitty situation to deal out to any character to make them the retrospective bad guy, but it is better than the making your hero the villain, I think.
I'd be interested to see if there was a cut of this film where they actually don't meet in the end, because that's obviously the high point of the film for me. But I'd be interested to see if there's a take where, they just both accept their like they accept that the true one they're supposed to be with was, each other's respective partners. Maybe not in Sarah's case, but certainly with Jonathan. Like, I think there could have been an ending of the film where he ends up with Hallie. Don't you?
Yeah, I would have liked. I think this would have had a place in another film, but I think I would have liked, a funny scene at the end. There's kind of a scene in Friends where Ross breaks up with his girlfriend Julie, and then Rachel dates a guy named Russ who looks just like Ross, and then Julie, Ross's ex-girlfriend, falls in love with the guy that looks like Ross. So they sort of become the perfect couple in that manner. I think in another film it would have felt right in place if then Hallie and Lars, the fiance of Sarah, then get together. I think that would have sort of tied it up neatly, where it turned out that they were each other's serendipity soulmates, like, and the whole thing was fate orchestrating it, so the two couples got together.
Yeah, I
think that maybe could have resolved a few of the issues. Or if we found out that all this time Hallie was also running around trying to find her soulmate, I think that maybe would have given a lot of redemption towards Jonathan.
I feel like specifically with Christmas romantic comedies as well, everyone jumps to Love Actually, don't they? But there's a lot of some good ones and some not so good ones on Netflix specifically, I feel. I recently watched one called it's the one with Nina Dobrev. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Love Hard.
Love Hard, yeah. It's pretty deep. It's very like basic of like the trailer is the film, but I didn't think it was too
horrible
bad.
lessons in it.
Yeah, no, there's some dodgy like lessons in there, yeah, for sure. But it was okay. I think Love Actually is an interesting one where it's kind of similar to what you were saying about the multiple relationships, because that deals with multiple characters and things like that. And we've talked about that before, I think, on the channel, haven't we, in our rom-com episode? But yeah, I don't know, this one holds a special place in my heart because I like films like this Before Sunrise, Before We Go is very similar to an extent as well. So I feel for me, although not inherently Christmas, it has that Christmas spirit to it, especially in the opening, where I can sort of quantify it as a Christmas film in my head, even if it's maybe not strictly Christmas for a lot of people.
Yeah, I do understand that. And I think with the ending, because I do like Sarah, I'm glad that things worked out for her, because obviously it is clear that by the universe standards, they are soulmates, and they are fated to come together in this way. So I mean, in the end, at least for her sake, I'm like, at least she got her soulmate. I am happy about that. And so the ending with the snow falling and them kissing, it did give me warm feelings.
Yeah, it's a fantastic scene. It's probably one of my favorite cinema scenes I've seen in a while, actually, for sure. And the film is supported by a really good soundtrack with that. I think it's probably one of the most romantic comedies. Like, a lot of romantic comedies prioritize the comedy, I feel, over the romance, but this one really does the opposite, which I was really glad to see. And I don't have much more to say on it, mate. Like I said, I have brief notes on it.
Yeah, nothing else for me either.
What would you give it out of 10 then, if you're going to read it?
So I really do like this film in the way that I love When Harry Met Sally.
Yes.
I would say that When Harry Met Sally is probably my favorite traditional romantic comedy, because I love About Time is my favorite film, but I don't really think it's a romantic comedy. I think it's more like a tragic comedy almost, because there is equal parts comedy and equal parts, absolute like gut wrenching sadness. Like it is a really tough watch in parts. So I think traditional romantic comedy wise, When Harry Met Sally is top tier for me, and I would say that this is very much in a similar vein. And I think it really gives me the vibe of like one of those ones that really does get overlooked. I think that the people that have seen this movie don't quite enjoy it as much as the two of us did. But it is one that I will have warm feelings for and will watch again. And I think
Good.
I don't know that I'll ever be like, yeah, Jonathan, solid dude. I think I will be like, he's a bit of a knobhead in the way that, I don't think I can get behind Tom in 500 Days of Summer. Even though I know that you can definitely see some redeemable qualities in there. So I think I was able to look past how I feel about him and look to how I feel about the film. I think it's a great film. So I would probably give it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I respect that, man. I think you're spot on there. And yeah, like I said, it's probably the most romantic comedy I've seen in ages. And I love the performances. I love the chemistry, the soundtrack, the overall sort of early 2000s vibe it has. So I'd probably give it a 10. It's not a perfect film, but for me, it's perfect in its message and all those kind of things and the tone. So yeah, two really solid films, I think, this year. I always love, like I said at the start of this podcast, I love doing these. Next year we'll probably have to switch it up, do
Two
some
pieces of shit.
Do some not so good Christmas films, or some ones that are like guilty pleasures or something. I don't know. We'll have to switch it up. But yeah, if this is the last video of us you're seeing in 2021, thank you very much for all your support. We're really trying to hit 300 subscribers by the end of the year.
Four away.
We lost one yesterday, but then someone else subscribed. So I'm so glad we're still on 296. But I was really worried there for a second, man. I was like, oh no, people are no unsubscribing. But yeah, thank you very much for all your support, and stay tuned as well in the coming weeks for reviews of The Matrix 4 and Kingsman and The West Side Story. I know we'll be doing West Side Story for a while. It's just every time we go to do it, I think we're both exhausted because we kind of pair it with something else, and it's just not a film.
I think that we actually saw it the day before it was officially released anywhere. So I think if we like done a review on the night, we could have capitalized on the fact that we got in early. But now it's like, oh, well, everybody's seen it, and like, did we enjoy it? But we will get to it.
We have a good story time with it. I feel like a lot of the review will just be our experience, because it's quite a unique one for us both. But yeah, let us know what you think of these Christmas films if you've seen them down below. What is your favorite Christmas film as well? Let us know that. And yeah, keep on liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing. Means the world to us. And hope you guys having a good festive period. Look after yourselves, look after the ones you love. And yeah, thanks very much, Callum. Thanks very much, everyone. See you later. And happy Christmas.
Bye-bye.